Hashtag release the Snyder Cut for years.
Oh, yeah.
One, you're a little too aggressive about it, but you got what you wanted.
You feel like you have to somehow talk negatively about it, and maybe you just don't feel like it.
They're gonna be super fucking smug about it.
It's probably gonna suck.
Wow, y'all are vigilant, I'll give you that. Let me start off by saying you probably don't care what I have to say because you probably made up your mind before you clicked on the video. But if you want your mind broadened, stay tuned.
Now I've heard there was a secret cut Zack Snyder played, and it pleased Godot. But you don't really care for DC, do ya? The theatrical cut was fucking shit. The major fall of Joss Whedon. The baffled King Zack Snyder, hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
Why am I hearing Leonard Cohen's version of Hallelujah playing inside my apartment where I live and sleep and poop?
Yeah, that's the one that Zack Snyder keeps using.
Why would you use the Leonard Cohen version of Hallelujah when everyone loves the Shrek version? Can you have a PNG of Shrek right here, please?
Yes, but this is the original version with the artist's original intent.
Just because something's the original version of something doesn't make it good, Matt.
Yeah, I know.
So, after almost 4 years, an adamant yet callous fan base, a derailed franchise, and an ill-timed launch of a burgeoning streaming service during a worldwide pandemic, it's finally here. The Snyder Cut. Or as it's properly called, Zack Snyder's Justice League. And even though I had some thoughts regarding the quality of the film itself, I was pretty hyped. And not just to see whether or not it was going to be good or bad, or a vast improvement over the Frankenstein's monster that was the theatrical cut, but because I believe, no matter how you slice it, it is an important movie. A movie which, with the right people behind it and going about it the right way, it could be the start of something even bigger than they know. So let's talk about it. Part 1. The New Hollywood Era. While I disagree with some of the lengths that some of the people would go to bring this film into fruition, I think there's something positive to come out from all of this, and that's taking the power away from those clueless studios and giving it back to the creatives, the writers, the directors. A real Prometheus story. The myth, not the movie, and hopefully without the consequences. See, during the late 60s and throughout the 70s, that's just how it was. The New Hollywood Era. Truly an inspiring time in the history of cinema. Steven Spielberg leapt from the Universal tram onto the backlot which he would later conquer. David Lynch spent years filming Eraserhead, constantly depleting and replenishing his funding, so much so that Jack Nance actually kept that crazy hairstyle for years while making the film. It was a time of high risk, high reward. The aforementioned Spielberg and Lynch, joined by the likes of George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, Stanley Kubrick, Martin Scorsese, Richard Donner, and Michael Cimino, wowed audiences with massive risks like Jaws, Eraserhead, Star Wars, The Godfather, A Clockwork Orange, Taxi Driver, Superman the Movie, and The Deer Hunter, just to name a lot. Each of those films had their struggles and were plagued with problems, spooking producers who would then threaten the director's career. But they persevered, and those films, as well as their directors, were untouchable. This all changed in the 1980s. After landing the Best Picture and Director Oscars at the 1979 Academy Awards for The Deer Hunter, an exceptional film depicting steelworkers whose lives are shattered as a result of the Vietnam War, Michael Cimino set out to make a follow-up, a passion project titled Heaven's Gate. It boasted an all-star cast, consisting of returning Deer Hunter actor and recent recipient of the Best Supporting Actor Oscar, Christopher Walken, along with Chris Christopherson, Jeff Bridges, Brad Dourif, and John Hurt, with Willem Dafoe and Mickey Rourke starring in their first and second roles respectively. It was set to be a grand Western epic that told a fictionalized account of the Johnson County War in 1890s Wyoming. Filming, as most of the projects from that era did, went over schedule and over budget. So much so that John Hurt had enough time to go off and film David Lynch's The Elephant Man while filming Heaven's Gate. Michael Cimino's obsessive attention to detail, as well as constant infighting with the producers, started to spell the impending doom on the new Hollywood era. And I know what you're thinking. What the fuck does this have to do with Zack Snyder's Justice League? What, do you want more parallels? The work print of Heaven's Gate that was presented to the studio execs was over 5 hours long, prompting the already disgruntled studio to demand the film be recut, with or without Cimino's help. Because the story was intended to be told as a sweeping tale, the 2-hour cut was confusing and wildly incoherent, leading it to become a box office and critical nightmare. The film went down in history as one of the worst movies ever made, and Michael Cimino's career never recovered. Similarly, a few years prior, Richard Donner set out to film Superman, the first big-budget comic book movie, with a script by Mario Puzo, author of The Godfather. He intended to shoot the film, as well as its sequel, back-to-back, telling a heroic 5-hour-long tale of the title character, from his origins, meeting and defeating Lex Luthor, all the way to fighting his Kryptonian kin with Zod and his henchmen in the sequel, with them being introduced at the beginning of the first film's prologue. With the release of the first film, and after tension with the studio, Richard Donner was let go from finishing Superman 2 after completing 75% of it. He was replaced by Richard Lester, who came in to reshoot and reshape the film into something more silly and appealing to the studio. Sound familiar? This led the way for the awful Superman 3, which was shot entirely by Lester, and the abysmal Superman 4 The Quest for Peace and Supergirl spin-off, effectively killing off the Superman franchise. Until 2006, with the quasi-sequel to Superman 2, Superman Returns, which also isn't great, and has too many sex perverts involved for my taste, but I digress. Coincidentally, the studio interference around Superman 2 happened around the same time as the Heaven's Gate debacle, which is a little tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, but who's to say? But shortly after this, as well as Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist, Joe Dante's Gremlins, and Spielberg's Temple of Doom, leading to the creation of the PG-13 rating, this was the final nail in the coffin that was the new Hollywood era. Director-driven projects made way for studio-controlled films. And, with the exception of filmmakers like Quentin Tarantino and Denis Villeneuve, that's how Hollywood is to this very day. And coming full circle, that's what happened to Zack Snyder. Regardless of how I feel about his filmmaking, he's yet another casualty to the studio system. However, there are some positives to come out of Heaven's Gate and Superman 2. After almost 32 years, Michael Cimino was given the chance to re-edit Heaven's Gate in accordance to his original vision, albeit with about an hour shaved off of his initial work print. Premiering alongside Frank Oz's director's cut of Little Shop of Horrors, Cimino's Heaven's Gate premiered at the 69th Venice Film Festival in 2012 to critical acclaim and reappraisal, and is considered one of the greatest injustices in cinematic history, being inducted into the Criterion Collection soon after. Nearly a decade prior to Cimino's long overdue victory, editor Michael Thau found lost footage of Richard Donner's Superman 2 in a vault in England. After some retooling, and overseen by Donner himself, Superman 2, the Richard Donner Cut was created. Coincidentally coinciding with Superman Returns, Superman 2, the Richard Donner Cut was critically lauded, and is now considered the superior film to the 1981 theatrical cut. The circumstances of these films echo with the production of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Before he could complete his version of the film, the studio pulled a Richard Lester and had Joss Whedon repurpose the movie into a critically panned mess. The Whedon cut is atrocious, with tone shifts every other second, and it feels like they took the Snyder and Whedon scenes and threw them into a wood chipper, and sometimes even intersplicing them into the same scene.
Strong man as strong as alone. You ever heard that?
That's not a saying. That's the opposite of what the saying is.
But right now, there's an opportunity waiting to be seized with the release of the Snyder Cut. See, instead of waiting 30 plus years for a proper director's cut, this time, we only had to wait about 4. Eyes are on this movie, and they're not just from fans. If this does well commercially, we could see a shift back into something akin to the new Hollywood era, where director-driven projects return, and the studios stay out of their way. We need to think bigger. Bigger than hashtag release the Snyder Cut. Bigger than hashtag release the Ayer, or Trank, or Green Cut. How about hashtag take back Hollywood? If y'all are serious about this being about artistic integrity, we need this to be about something more than a big budget blockbuster. Time to put your money where your mouth is. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too optimistic. Part 2. Reacting to criticism. So a few videos ago, I uploaded something that was little more than a prediction opinion piece on why I didn't think the Snyder Cut would be any good. Not unlike something Red Letter Media or Jenny Nicholson would do. Even down to the bed. I feel like it's safe to make a prediction of how a film would do, based on the evidence of a filmmaker's body of work. Of course, there are exceptions, like how every once in a while we get an uncut gems in between atrocious Adam Sandler schlock, or when David Lynch completely botched Dune due to, surprise surprise, studio interference. Regardless, within only minutes of uploading my video, I was swarmed by dislikes and a cesspool of the nastiest, most vitriolic comments I've ever encountered. And to tell you the truth, I was pretty bummed out. Until I figured out what was happening. Once they became available, I checked my analytics, and I found out that most people didn't even make it past the first minute of the video. These people were just sorting new on YouTube for creators that were speaking negatively about the Snyder Cut, and mass downvoting those videos in hopes to silence them, on top of making Snyder Cut fans' reputation exponentially worse. Which, yes, I know it's not all of you, there's toxicity in every fandom, but that kind of shit is really disingenuous, guys. But I would like, if I may, to take you
on a strange journey
of some of the more broader criticisms I've received and react accordingly. Number 1, the movie wasn't made for you. It was made for the fans. I am a fan. I love DC Comics. In fact, out of my top 5 favorite comic book films, 2 of them are DC, and 1 of them is Marvel, made outside of Marvel Studios. I'm just not a fan of the direction that Snyder took those characters in. I'm well aware that his adaptations are most likely inspired by Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns and All-Star Batman and Robin, as well as stories like Kingdom Come and the Injustice video game series. But I personally do not feel like these stories are a strong enough foundation to build a definitive DC cinematic universe, nor do I feel like anything from All-Star Batman and Robin is worth adapting. I've also seen a number of people compare Snyder's DCEU films to Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, claiming that Peter Jackson also made his films just for the fans, which is factually untrue. Jackson himself is a fan, sure, so there's little Easter eggs for the fans in there, but he didn't only cater to them, instead focusing on making the best film that he could make. Also, as far as I can tell, the whole made for the fans argument stems from David Ayer, who was asked in an interview to comment on the critical failure of Suicide Squad.
And the movie's good. The movie has a great heart, and the movie's made for the fans, and I think that they know that and they see that.
Also, I don't think a lot of these fans wanted their definitive Joker to look like this. Hell, even Zack Snyder changed that Joker's look for the Snyder Cut. Also, I find the whole made for the fans argument a bit insulting. I mean, it's an eerily similar argument to the whole "it's just a kids movie, who cares" argument. Illumination has been getting by on that argument for years now, and I don't think it rings true. There are so many kids movies that kids love that are better and more challenging than shit like Illumination or Troll in Central Park or the Emoji Movie. The same goes for comic book properties. Marvel also caters to their fans, but they make movies that resonate with non-fans just as much.
Fuck Marvel!
Oh, right, I forgot. Number 2, you're just a Marvel shill. Did you not watch my video? Oh, wait, no you didn't. I spent a good middle portion of that video shitting on Age of Ultron and Joss Whedon. And while I am a Marvel fan, I can admit when they don't hit a home run. I know DC is not Marvel, but I don't want them to be. I want them to stand on their own and coexist with each other, but not in a one's good and one's bad way. Besides, I'm not a Marvel shill. I'm an Archie shill.
Everything's Archie!
Number 3, you just hate Zack Snyder, you Snyder hater. I don't hate Zack Snyder. I actually think he's a pretty cool dude who really cares about his fan base. I just don't like his films. And I think the thing that he said about wanting to see Batman getting gang raped in prison is a bit weird, but that doesn't mean I hate the guy. Number 4. It's a masterpiece according to Rotten Tomatoes. Eat crow. Okay, since when do you guys care about Rotten Tomatoes? I distinctly remember a time where some of you tried to get Rotten Tomatoes shut down for giving Batman vs. Superman and Suicide Squad bad reviews.
We need this site to be shut down because its critics always give the DC Extended Universe movies unjust bad reviews like 1. Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, and 2. Suicide Squad.
Oh, there's just 2?
There's just 2 listed, yeah.
That counts as always?
But now, you tout them around when it's convenient for you? I hope y'all have learned in the time since that petition that Rotten Tomatoes is owned by Warner Brothers, and that the website doesn't work the way that people think it does. See, at the time of recording, the Snyder Cut is sitting at a 71%. Which is hardly the score for a masterpiece, but I digress. Furthermore, this doesn't mean that the Snyder Cut is 71% of a good movie. It means that 71% of critics gave it a positive review. But even some of these reviews are a bit questionable. For example, this critic wrote, "An inspired vision of the same superhero team-up plot that we've seen 17 times now. Please let it be the last." How the fuck is that a positive review? In fact, most of the reviews are saying, well, it's better than the theatrical cut, and they're being counted as positive, regardless of what the full review says. Also, if we're really counting Rotten Tomatoes as a reliable source, remember, Ghostbusters 2016, one of the worst blockbusters in history, has a score that's higher than the Snyder Cut, and is certified fresh. So a masterpiece? I don't think so. And look, if you enjoyed it, great. I'm happy for you. But the whole, "this video didn't age well" comment doesn't really apply here. I stand by what I said in that video. But I will admit that I was wrong about what I said at the end. But who am I kidding? The people who commented didn't make it to the end of the video? Number 5. Ad hominem arguments. A ton of the arguments that I previously mentioned were accented by attacks on my character, rather than the arguments that I was making. Either that, or they were only attacks on my character, appearance, or what have you, as deflections for, presumably, their arguments not being as strong. These are what's known as ad hominem arguments, translating from Latin as "to the person," for the reasons stated above. Sure, it's easy to attack my quarantine hair, or my eyebrow, or the way that I move my hands when I talk, but what does any of that have to do with my opinion of the Snyder Cut? How would me being a virgin, or cuck, or troll invalidate my opinion, and my speculation for a movie by a director that doesn't have a great track record, with a history of patterns that I don't enjoy, like unnecessary slow motion or speed ramping, excessive destruction from superheroes with minimal weight, metaphors and allegories that are either lacking in subtlety or don't make sense for the characters, like Superman being Jesus, when he's clearly Moses. Yeah, Christianize a book written by Jews. Why does that sound familiar? Number 6. I can't trust anyone with a Pokemon plush collection. You understand this is a conversation about superheroes, right? That argument is literally an example of an ad hominem argument, but I wanted to address this one directly. Yeah, I've got a Pokemon plush collection. And you know what? After all of this, I got another one. Look at him, he's so feathery, like a real duck. Even the bill. But in all seriousness, how is me having a plush collection even relevant to the conversation? How is it any different from collecting and enjoying comic books and superhero movies? It isn't. It's all the same nerdy stuff. Let me have my Pokemon, and I'll let you have your Snyder Cut. Deal? Deal. I can't believe I'm having this conversation. What was this video supposed to be about again? Oh yeah, part 3. My thoughts on the Snyder Cut. Okay. Enough talk of an era of days gone by. Enough of my feelings about Heaven's Gate or Michael Cimino or the new Hollywood era and how we can start anew. That's not what you guys are here to see. In fact, I'm sure most of you skipped to this part of the video. Cheaters. So, my consensus of the Snyder Cut is... it's bad. No, but seriously. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. Hell, it's not even the worst comic book movie I've ever seen. But it ain't good. Make no mistake, however, it is a vast improvement over the 2017 Joss Whedon version, a prediction that I got wrong, which I will totally own up to. But after years of hype, insults, and a movement that may or may not have been successful without a worldwide pandemic that forced Warner's hand, It needed to be better than this. Again, however, instead of being wholly negative, and to get ahead of the accusations that I went into the movie wanting to hate it, I'm gonna present my criticisms in the form of a compliment sandwich. Though, admittedly, some of these positives are a bit of a stretch in order to fit the format of a compliment sandwich, but damn it, I'll try to give credit where credit is due. So in no particular order, thing I liked. They solved the don't be gay debacle. When I watched the Whedon cut initially, I wasn't alone in hearing Henry Allen telling Barry don't be gay.
Don't be gay!
I know it couldn't be what he said, but it sure sounded like it. And apparently, I wasn't alone, because in the Snyder Cut, it's much clearer that it's a background guard saying, open gate. I'm happy he fixed the little things. As Ed Wood would say,
filmmaking is not about the tiny details, it's about the big picture.
Okay, in all seriousness, thing I liked. Things make sense. Kinda. Unlike the Whedon cut, which starts with a terrible Leonard Cohen cover, this version starts where Batman v Superman kind of ends, with the death of Superman and the reawakening of the Mother Boxes. Lex Luthor sees a premonition in Superman's ship of Steppenwolf and the Mother Boxes, and right off the bat, we now know something is coming, and soon. The threat is immediately established, and we didn't need an awful bug monster parademon to explode exposition on the wall. Also, the dumb "they feast on fear" nonsense is nowhere to be found in this version, which I was very happy about. Thing I hated. Superman's dumb cry and black suit. So Superman, when being killed by Doomsday, which shouldn't have happened in the universe's second film, but whatever, lets out a shockwave scream, which, on top of being silly and presented as comically overdramatic, inadvertently awakens the Mother Boxes. And I guess makes the bad guys think that Earth is no longer guarded? Don't these villains know about the Atlanteans and the Amazons? We'll touch on their stupidity later. Furthermore, the black suit reveal was incredibly disappointing. In the comics, the black suit is a Kryptonian healing suit, which absorbs the power of the sun to heal Superman after the Doomsday arc. Here, it's black because it looks cool, or it's supposed to represent how he's feeling. I feel like it really doesn't mesh well aesthetically with the other members of the Justice League like his classic suit did. Also, I've heard the argument that this film was supposed to solidify Superman as the symbol of hope that I wanted him to be since the beginning. But in a world that hates and fears him, such as Snyder's, I don't think an all-black costume is going to do him any favors in the hope department. Thing I liked. The cinematography. Something I will give Zack Snyder is the guy really knows how to frame a shot. Or rather, he always hires a talented cinematographer who knows how to frame a shot. Especially his comic book adaptations. He really knows how to make the frame look like a comic panel brought to life. I can see why so many people find it exciting. Thing I hated. The stupid aspect ratio. The black bars on the side are stupid and pretentious. I understand this is how it would have been presented on an IMAX screen, but it wasn't released on IMAX screens. It was released on HBO Max. You can tell that the framing of the shots was meant to work when formatted properly on 16:9 screens and televisions, and it wouldn't have been distracting on a giant IMAX screen, but I don't know. It made me feel like I was watching a 4:3 live-action comic book TV show from the 90s, and the writing and tone definitely didn't help that comparison. And it felt like they were just there to seem artsy and different, without the actual talent to back it up. This isn't The Lighthouse. It's an overblown and overwritten Justice League movie. Thing I liked. A much more consistent tone. Because this was clearly the vision of one filmmaker, it was expected that the tone would be consistent throughout this version of the movie. All the Whedon nonsense is gone. His bizarre inserts are replaced with shots that have time to breathe, sometimes too much, but for the most part, I didn't have a problem with it. It is lighter than your typical Snyder outing, but in no way is the darkness gone. Overall, even if the tone isn't something that I would rave about, at least it was consistent. Thing I hated. The crap I thought was Whedon's. A lot of the humor and lightness didn't work for me at all, particularly the Flash, who still has a bevy of cringy dialogue.
So I am just a black hole of snacks. I am a snack hole.
The scene where Bruce Wayne meets him is largely the same, minus the brunch line, as is the bat signal Commissioner Gordon.
humor.
There's also the scene that's the same as X-Men Apocalypse, another awful flick, where Superman's eyes follow Flash's movements. I could have sworn that was straight out of Whedon's wheelhouse. Stepping away from the Flash, there's still that awkward Aquaman act, where he gets in the water and outs Bruce Wayne in front of everyone.
Dressed like a bat. You're out of your mind, Bruce Wayne.
I'm aghast that that wasn't a Whedon reshoot. Also, I could be wrong here, but I think this line was redubbed, because I'm pretty sure he's saying,
I hear you can talk to fish. I hear you can talk to fish.
It was in the Snyder version, and I know Jason Momoa wanted it cut, so I think this was an alternate take to that. Also, not only was that awful Wonder Woman bank heist thing not Whedon's, but it was extended to include an execution by explosion, which somehow doesn't make the hostages go dead from their close proximity to it, but also, I'm assuming the damages would equal to how much money would have been stolen anyway, so good job, Wonder Woman. Keep spazzing out like Jeremy when you're deflecting bullets. This also furthers my point from my previous video that I don't think Zack Snyder knows what kills people. Furthermore, going back to Aquaman, the dumb bubble talk is alive and well here. I assumed this was a hasty reshoot on Whedon's part because of how cheap, awkward, and clunky it is, but nope, it was Snyder. Puzzlingly, it might be worse in the Snyder version because of Amber Heard's stupid accent.
You cannot imagine how it hurt her. What it cost her.
Also, fuck Amber Heard.
Yep, reckon that's about 5 feet deep. That ought to do it.
Thing I liked. Cyborg actually has a character. Cyborg, much like everyone else, actually has something to fucking do in this cut of the movie. Instead of the boring, stoic robot man that definitely wouldn't say booyah, he's a more complex character that definitely wouldn't say booyah. Thing I hated. Everything else about Cyborg. This was, yet again, another missed mark that I wanted the Snyder Cut to fix. For months, Ray Fisher and Zack Snyder teased more Cyborg and justice for Cyborg. I guess as a character disconnected from the Cyborg that everyone loves, he serves his purpose. I don't think Ray Fisher is bad or anything, but his backstory was so obvious that one of my friends pointed out the lamest thing that they could have possibly done, and no joke, right after she said that, they did it. What a joke.
Daddy wasn't there.
Also, side note, but I like that the marquee says Gotham City versus the city of Wisconsin. Also, if it is referring to the University of Wisconsin, fair enough, but are they referring to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee or Madison? As a former cheesehead myself, I was confuzzled, don't you know? Thing I liked. The film takes its time. I did like that each character got their time to shine. They're organically introduced, and the movie is factually epic. I liked that there were little moments where the film breathed, like in the extended scene with the Amazons, where Hippolyter takes in the destruction Steppenwolf brought to Themyscira. Or when we keep cutting to Aquaman, getting to know what kind of man he is, and having him grow to want to join the League. Thing I hated. The movie's too long. As is, I still feel like a half hour could have been cut out at least. There's a lot of dead space in between lines of dialogue.
You already know I need your help. The world does.
Fuck the world.
I think it's supposed to come across as brooding and thoughtful, but it comes across like they didn't edit out the lead-in after action was called. Also, I know that I pointed out that it was nice that the characters had their time to shine, but do you know what would have been better? If each of the characters had their own fucking movie before they rushed them into an ensemble. I know they're not the Avengers, but they're not the X-Men, the Ninja Turtles, or the Mystery Men either, where it's about the ensemble. They're the fucking Justice League. They're supposed to be established characters before they team up. But I think this partially goes back to the whole I wouldn't mind so much if this wasn't the definitive DC film universe and was some sort of Elseworlds thing. Which I guess it is now retroactively, but it wasn't intended to be. Thing I liked. The awful half-assed score is replaced. Gone is the weird mishmash of Danny Elfman's Batman theme from the Tim Burton universe, as is the inappropriate placement of John Williams' Superman theme during the discombobulated Superman resurrection scene. Thing I hated. The score was bad. Yes, the bizarre callback tunes are gone, but it's replaced by bland action movie score, complete with this horrible vocalization track that follows Wonder Woman at every move that's strangely reminiscent to the weird score from The Exorcist 2. Thing I liked. Less Henry Cavill. How the hell is this a positive? Simple. Henry Cavill, not a great actor. And in a film stacked with, well, Gal Gadot,
Kal-El, no!
I don't think I could have handled that much awful acting in a 4-hour movie. That being said, even though I disagreed with Batman v Superman killing off Superman in this universe's second outing, his shadow does loom large over the movie. And even when he is resurrected, it does take a while before he joins the final fight. And when he does, he has a part to play that isn't just, I can take this guy, but oh no, contrived way to keep me away for a hot sec. Toodles. Also, no CGI upper lip is always a plus.
Yes, ma'am.
Thing I hated. Lois Lane is underutilized yet again. I'm getting pretty sick of Lois Lane just being Superman's support. Hell, even Man of Steel gave this character some agency.
If we're done measuring dicks, can you have your people show me what you found?
And Amy Adams herself was bummed out about how they treated her character.
That's the tricky thing with Lois that I find is that I feel like I love playing her. I love everyone I work with. But sometimes it's tricky because I feel like she's in service of the story. Instead of the story serving the character.
So, yeah.
In a perfect universe, they all work together.
That's what I was
I
about
mean.
to say,
I always want to service the story.
Sure, yeah, right.
But I want to feel supported as in the character as well.
This in no way is a criticism of Amy Adams, who's always great, even in this. I just wish they gave her something to do other than grieve and be Superman's support. In fact, Lois being Betty to Superman's Hulk is kind of indicative of what's wrong with Snyder's version of Superman. He should love humanity, and not just one single human. Thing I liked. The Flash's Speed Force stuff. I actually thought it was cool when they foreshadowed the ending with the Flash going so fast, he accidentally reverses time. Not only did it add some fun stakes to the resurrection scene that was sorely missing from the Whedon cut, but it also introduced the audience to something you rarely see in a Zack Snyder film.
Subtlety.
It wasn't completely spelled out, and I liked it. It added some mystery and actually elevated the Flash's cameo in BVS, which for me is no small feat. Actually, you know what? Get him some better writers for dialogue and I wouldn't mind seeing Zack Snyder doing a Flash movie. I also like how it culminated with the Flash getting injured and leaving the heroes open to attack, and everyone fucking dies. Well, not everyone, which we'll get to, but it leads to the best part of the movie, which is the Flash turning back time and being able to save the day. It's undeniably awesome, and leads to creatively creating an alternate universe where the nightmare sequence takes place. Thing I hated. The nightmare sequence. The thing I was most looking forward to was the thing I was most disappointed by. The majority of the new footage was here, and I was excited to see it. Would Jared Leto redeem himself? Would it tease a promising continuation for the Snyderverse? Would it axe Amber Heard?
I was hitting you. It was not punching you. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I fucking was hitting you.
The answer to all of those questions is no. It felt overlong, self-indulgent, and kinda boring. Jared Leto is still the worst silver screen Joker, with his annoying laugh that feels reminiscent of Heath Ledger's fake laugh during his scene with Gamble in The Dark Knight. Also, again, fuck Amber Heard. On the topic of tacked on, that's exactly how Martian Manhunter felt. Tacked on. There wasn't any build-up to the reveal, unless you count that he was an actor that we may have recognized from previous movies. Also, why did he have to be in disguise as Ma Kent talking to Lois? That kinda deflates the scene, and it makes it weird that the next time we see Ma Kent, it's now technically her first appearance in the movie. And wait, Martian Manhunter was there when Batman was assembling the team and did nothing to help other than show up at the end and give him a proverbial pat on the back? Lazy fuck. Thing I liked. The improved villains. Steppenwolf was, admittedly, better than the Whedon version. Sure, that's not much of an accomplishment because literally anything would have been better than that, but holy shit, he had a motivation? To get back in Darkseid's good graces by finding the mother boxes for him. He almost comes off as pathetic in this, and I kinda liked that. Thing I hated. The villains still sucked. At the end of the day, the villains' motivations are the same. Collect 3 lame and visually unpleasant MacGuffins to terraform the planet into a version of the bad guy's homeworld. which, to quote Rich Evans, is the same as Man of Steel, in which
the bad guy has a machine that's going to terraform the Earth into a version of his homeworld.
Also, even though Steppenwolf's design is better, his armor looks so dumb and seems like his suit has the power to remind you that he can move little pieces of it. Furthermore, how stupid is Darkseid? Not only is he now the Steppenwolf-esque character Steppenwolf was in the previously released version, but in the greatest battle waged against Earth's forces, where he suffered the greatest defeat and lost to the Mother Boxes, how the fuck did he forget where Earth was?
Desaad, maybe you could fucking... I need a second opinion on this one, alright? I'm a little wasted.
Yes, anything.
So, I left the Mother Boxes on the planet where I found the anti-life equation.
Walk me through it.
The Mother Boxes were found on Earth.
Yeah, I see where your mind's at.
Where's the anti-life equation? Maybe you have to carry the two. I can't figure it out! I'm a dumb Darkseid! Dumb Darkseid! Oh my god, I can't believe I couldn't find it. I'm such a bad space war.
No, you're not. We've all lost the anti-life equation in our lifetime. Yeah. Imagine me, Desaad. I couldn't find it. There's hope for you yet. Yeah, who's the best Darkseid?
I'm the best Darkseid.
You're so good, aren't you?
Yeah,
You're the best. Hey, let's go find this together. Okay. And then we'll go to Ruby's, all right? On the pier?
On the pier.
On the pier.
My lord, the lost world is Earth. Anti-life is here.
I knew that. Of course it is.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
You're dumb.
You're so stupid.
You're a horn
my
bitch.
God, you're so stupid.
I hate you.
Dumb.
You're a dumb, redesigned horn bitch. You're a bitch, Stepper. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you.
Part 4. Conclusion. While writing this video, Warner Brothers released both Godzilla vs. Kong and Mortal Kombat, 2 mediocre films, and I noticed, with only a few exceptions, that Warner's kind of been on a decade of decline. Be it through chasing trends or repurposing movies into something they're not, it's yet another symptom of an overproduced Hollywood. I really don't have much more to say about the Snyder Cut. I really didn't like it, as much as I wanted to. And believe me, after the reception that I got, I really wanted to, if not to rub into those snarky commenters' faces, but it just wasn't for me. I was really hoping that after all of this, maybe, just maybe, the hashtag release the Snyder Cut movement could be used to change cinema, but it doesn't seem to be going in that direction. But that doesn't mean it can't, and it's not too late. Hollywood can change, but we need to think bigger than Warner and DC in particular. Also, if you liked it, don't let me take that away from you. Like what you like. You don't have to agree with me. I'm merely voicing my criticisms about a movie that I feel needed to be better, with characters that I feel deserve better. I love DC, and after all of this, I'm still gonna love DC. Everyone can interpret art differently, and I feel like educated voices are important, even if people disagree. That is what makes art so special. Not everyone is gonna see it the same way, and that's okay. Well, except for maybe it's Pat. Seriously, fuck this movie. Special thanks to Samuel, Lucy, Shara, Alina, and Catherine for supporting me on Patreon. And thank you for making it to the end of my video. I gotta say, I'm pretty stoked to move on from the Snyder Cut. And apparently, so is Zack Snyder, as he's released his new movie, Army of the Dead Pixel. If you don't get that, look it up. So, my consensus of the Snyder Cut is...